Hello everyone, this is Sukruti Joshi and our today's topic for video lecture is classification of explosives. So explosives are basically the substances which gives us tremendous amount of energy. They will give us tremendous amount of volume as well as they give us exothermic reaction. So we will obtain a very high amount of physical impact as well as an impact on our surrounding that is very high. So thermal and physical impact that is very high when we use different types of explosives. So let's move ahead with this one. Here, if we talk about which are the types of explosives. So explosives can be divided into three main types. Number one, primary explosives. Number two, low explosives. And number three, high explosives. So we can actually classify typically our explosives into three main parts. Number one, primary explosives. Number two, low explosives, and number three, which is high explosives. Okay, depending upon their exertion of energy or depending upon their capacity to exert the energy, we can actually use them. Now when we talk about what are the primary explosives, so we will take here one by one each and every type in detail. Okay, how they can be actually done or how they are showing the characteristic to us, that we will see here. Clear? So primary explosives, it is a type of explosive which can be initiated by spark. They are known as initiating explosives or detonators. They are known as either initiators or detonators. Okay, they produce low temperatures and low pressure. As compared to other type of explosives, they give us low pressure as well as low temperature. That's why they are used as initiators or detonators here. So they are highly sensitive explosives which can explode on receiving a slight shock or by fire. So they are actually very sensitive ones and they can be initiated or they can be ignited very easily. If a small amount or if a small degrees of raise in temperature occurs, they can be ignited. If a very slight shock by fire or very slight shock is given, they will be initiated, right? That's why they produce a low energy, but they are highly sensitive in nature. So the examples of our low explosives are number one, lead azide, number two, mercury fulminate, and number three, tetracene. These three are considered as best example of low explosives as well as they are widely used also. So basically primary explosives, the low explosives are the type of explosives which can be initiated by primary explosive. They produces moderate temperature and moderate pressure. They are less sensitive explosives which explode on receiving slight shock or by fire from primary explosives. So in general, primary explosives are the initiators. They are detonators. They initiate the low explosives, and the low explosive then initiate or then move ahead towards the high explosive. So low energy, medium one, and you will get a higher one. So in general we can say that like tetrazine is an example of primary explosive, lead-azide is an example of primary explosive. So that can be actually used, and we will move ahead to the low explosive which initiated by the primary explosives. Examples of low explosives are gunpowder or black powder. Then we will have nitrocellulose or gun cotton. Now, the third type of explosive that we will get here is high explosives. Okay? Now, what is the meaning of high explosives? So, it is a type of explosive which can be initiated by thermal or mechanical shock. They produces high temperatures and very high pressures. They are very less sensitive explosives. Okay, they are not very sensitive to the shock or to temperature or to particular kind of thermal shock. Okay. Examples of our high explosive can be TNT, which is known as trinitrotoluene, PETN, which is known as pentaerythritol tetranitrate, RDX, which is known as research and development explosive. We have NG, which is known as nitroglycerin. Now, which precautions we have to take during the storage of explosives? So which are the things that we need to understand and we need to take care when we do the storing of explosive, which is a very important part. So when explosives are actually not used at that time, what is the steps or what are the steps actually to store the explosives there, right? So the first step that we will have here is different explosives should be stored in separate boxes. They should be stored in different boxes. You should not store each and every explosive in the same one, in the similar box, okay? Because they will be of different types and you need to store them in different boxes. The detonators and the explosives should be stored totally separate. Remember this thing, because detonators actually explodes the explosives, they actually initiates the explosives. So we need to take care that the detonators and explosives should be stored totally separate. Our third precaution is when power failure takes place, use of only and only torches should be made for lighting purposes. Okay, you should not use any kind of candle, you should not use any other type of light source while you are near to the storage or the storage place of an explosive. You need to remember this thing very clearly. Okay, only and only use of torch should be there. Next is all the electrical fittings and wirings should be properly insulated. They should be properly insulated so that none of that creates a shock or none of that creates a spark. The spark can actually initiate or actually ignite the explosive, and that's why they will get exploded and a blast can occur. Only authorized persons should be allowed to the explosive store. You need to remember this thing. Only and only authorized persons who has license and who have a particular way of or particular ability or particular kind of instructions to enter the store, that person only can be given access. Jerks or drops of explosive should not be allowed. Okay, while you are storing that or while you are transporting the explosive, you need to remember it very clearly that jerks or drops of explosives should not be allowed because they can actually ignite the explosive. Now, primary explosives. So the first one is lead azide. Okay, lead azide is basically PbN3 twice. It is prepared by reacting the solutions of sodium azide and lead nitrate with each other. First, sodamide is treated with N2O. It will give rise to sodium azide. That sodium azide is reacted with lead acetate to form lead azide. Okay, so first reaction is NaNH2 will react with N2 and forms NaN3 and H2O. Now that sodium azide, which is 2NaN3, will react with lead acetate. Okay, that lead acetate and sodium azide reacts with each other and forms lead azide PbN3 twice and sodium acetate. So here the most important one here that we will have is the solutions of our sodium azide, that is basically sodamide. When it is treated with N2O, that is our first step, and after that the sodium azide that we will obtain, that plays a very important role in preparation of lead azide, which is most widely used, right? So it is used in detonators to initiate the low explosives. In a commercially usable form, it is white to buff powder. Lead azide is employed as initiating explosive in blasting caps. Generally, they can be used in different types of bullets, in their blasting caps, etc. Right? When used as a primary charge, it is effective in smaller quantities than mercury fulminate and has a higher triggering rate. And unlike mercury fulminate, it cannot be dead pressed by even relatively low pressures. In order to improve its flammability, an easily flammable additive such as lead nitro or lead trinitroresorcinate is added into it. Our second is mercury fulminate, which is HgCnO twice. So mercury fulminate is generally prepared by dissolving mercury in nitric acid, after which the solution is poured into 95% ethanol. After a short time, vigorous gas evolution takes place and crystals are formed. When the reaction is complete, the crystals are filtered by the suction and washed until it becomes neutral. The mercury fulminate product is obtained in this manner. The thermal decomposition of mercury fulminate, that is mercury 2 fulminate, begin at temperatures as low as 100 degrees Celsius, though it proceeds at much higher rate with increasing temperature. A possible reaction for the decomposition of mercury fulminate yields carbon dioxide, nitrogen gas, and a combination of relatively stable mercury salts. Right? So it was used in compressed form in the manufacture of blasting caps and percussion caps. The material, the shells and the caps are made of copper. So HgCnO twice produces 2Co plus N2 plus mercury. Thank you so much.